So another form of movement here comes from what might seem like a slightly unlikely place in Brazil. So the Abraham Path, as the Abraham Path was forming, chapters began to form around the world. And the first chapter to emerge to support the path in different ways was in Brazil, and in no small part to our next speaker, Alexandre Chade, who is a businessman from Sao Paulo and has been instrumental in getting the Abraham Path chapter going there, but also what he's done with it and what the small group of folks there have done to take it to another level is quite extraordinary. And Alex is going to talk to you about the experience in Brazil of setting up actually a annual road race in the spirit of Ibrahim, and the results of this kind of effort. So, Alex?
No? Yeah. Good. It's working now. Well, it's great to be here, and thank you for the last presentation, because we're talking about the movement. That's probably what I'm here to talk about. One of the movements that may help. The flip side, I'm here to talk about the heart and soul of the Abraham Path. Maybe. Okay, we've been talking here about taking people to the path. My presentation here is about asking you guys, can we take the path to the people? If it's so difficult to take people there because people are afraid, can we take the spirit of the path all over the world so that people will be more friendly and fond of the path and be willing to go there and help in many different ways? Well, let's take the least likely place for this to happen, which is probably Brazil. We have the imaginary Brazil, that's Brazil some people know about, which is soccer, samba, Amazon, nature. And we have the real Brazil, that you showed a little bit about Rocinha. And we lost 7-1 to Germany, as you know. We have violence. More people die, of course, in the streets of São Paulo than every year in Palestine and Israel. So this is not a very likely place for you to talk about the Middle East, because the urgency of the matters that we have in Brazil have taken all of the attention span of people. But is that true? I dare you to tell me here which are the pictures of Brazil or the Middle East. They are mixed together. So how can you talk about the Middle East when we have all of these urgencies in Brazil? I met Bill in 2006 when the Abraham Path was basically a computer animation in a DVD he presented me. But the concept was so strong, was so important, that just a few months later, we were hosting a dinner for 500 people, the most influential people of Brazil, including the former president, Fernando Henrique Cardoso, all to talk about that computer animation. And that same year, Bill mentioned the first trip of Harvard to the Middle East, to the Abraham Path itself. We sent a rabbi, a Brazilian rabbi, and a professor of Arabic literature to take part in this field trip. And the rabbi wrote a book about that. It's all in the same year that I met Bill. 1 year later, I was with Bill and the team in the southeast of Turkey for the official inauguration of the path in Sanliurfa and Haran. And we took the crew of the most important TV show of Brazil called Fantástico, and they did a piece of 5 minutes on Abraham Path in south of Turkey. How come? Then I started asking myself, why this project has such a big impact in Brazil? And it became very clear to me that the path has already happened in Brazil. People came from all over the world. They found opportunity, they helped each other, the world helped. There was hospitality in Brazil. And they succeeded. So I look at the history in my family. My grandfather came to Brazil empty-handed. He got help. He worked a lot. He was finally able to build a house for himself or his family, but he made sure he always had a spare room for whoever needed. And most of the people who needed were peddlers, mostly Jews and Arabs. So we felt that we had a sort of a gift. There has a word in Portuguese that's called convivência. Convivência is living together and helping each other. This gift was like a superpower, but with great power comes great responsibility. And we felt in Brazil that we had to share this with the world, that it's not only possible to live together, but it's good and it does well. So the way to share this with the world was to promote a symbolic Abraham Path walk in Brazil. We named this the Friendship Run because Abraham was the friend of God. And we decided that we would go where the communities were, because in Brazil the communities are in sports and social clubs. Basically, we had the path for the run would start in the Syrian and Lebanese club and would end down there at the Jewish sports club. And we would pass by some of the landmarks of the city of São Paulo, in the heart of the city of São Paulo. It's like the Fifth Avenue, and we basically stopped the heart of São Paulo with this walk and run. It was very improbable, but we had the mayor running with us. We had the governor of the state of São Paulo running with us. We had the mayor happen to be of Lebanese descent. His secretary of sports was a Jewish gentleman. And all of them running and walking together with us in the Friendship Run. And we've been doing this event annually since then. This is the portal that we have in the southeast of Turkey, in Haran. This is the starting point of a run. Exactly the same portal. So since 2009, we've been doing this event every year. And it's been growing a lot. And it's been changing. So we had 350 people in the first walk and run. This year, we had 10,000 people. Some of the staff were there with us this year, just a couple months ago. And it moved from just the Friendship Run to a full festival of arts, culture, sports, and food. It became the Caminho da Paz. I know peace is a sensitive word. It's the path of peace. But in Brazil, peace means peace. So, I was told I should not talk about peace, but anyway, in Brazil, that's peace, okay? So, why is this, what makes 10,000 people come and walk and feel like we want to show our example of convivencia to the world? We want to share this with the world. Because that's the Brazilian side to it. And they run for peace. And if we had 20,000 places for the run, we would have 20,000 people. It's just that we cannot fit everybody. We sell all of the spots in just 3 hours, 1 month before the run takes place. And the engagement of the city of São Paulo was so important, so big, that we were officially nominated as a strategic event of the city of São Paulo. That means that we are on the same level of Carnival, Formula One, and the New Year's Parade. São Paulo does not allow any out-of-home media anymore, but not to us. The city gave us a special waiver so that we put those huge block words that represent what we mean by convivência, which is peace, love, respect, diversity, integration. This year we had some of the most renowned artists in Brazil designing the words, like this mirror diversity, peace, and respect. For this all to happen, we have the support not only of all of the sports clubs of the entities, the United Nations, and the federal, state, and municipal government, but this all brought us tons of sponsors. These guys here, they pay to have their brands associated with the idea of the Abraham Path, of the Caminho da Paz. And of course, media loves us. we have extensive coverage on TV. And in the press media, we're able to link the Caminho da Paz in more depth with the Abraham Path project. We got 12 cover pages in the last 18 months in the most important magazines we had in Brazil. Social media, of course, people do that spontaneously, and all types of artists joined our group. And it became a brand. We have products branded by the Abraham Path, or the Caminho da Paz. So by doing that, we built a community in Brazil with awareness of Abraham Path, to which we can cater projects, not only in Brazil, but also for the Middle East. So we'll be sponsoring, and we have been sponsoring projects from Brazil to the Middle East. We created the awareness and the community needed for that. How come? The least likely place on earth, like Brazil, can be such a receptacle of an idea like the Abraham Path. There's just one reason for that. And I learned a word here that I guess is the best word that describes it. It's unputdownable. Is that correct? So the Abraham Path spirit is unputdownable. It's unstoppable. It has the strength that only simple and strong ideas have. So we have a word for that in Portuguese as well. It's called ziriguidum. Ziriguidum. And there's a short video that tells you what ziriguidum is all about. That's it. Thank you very much.
So, great. Thank you very much, Alex. How about that for the flip side of the Middle East, all the way in Brazil, right? And it just shows also just that the limits, there are no limits to this project, that the path can be anywhere. And it can be here. There have been walks actually in the United States in different places as well. So any questions for Alex about all of this, et cetera? Yes, sir.
Being familiar with the event in Brazil and in some other countries in Latin America, I really enjoy your presentation. But I think the difficulty that I can see is that there is not enough unity in the society, because what you have shown here today doesn't happen when they go to vote.
When they go what?
To vote.
To vote?
Yes. And that explains what happened in the last election, and what happened by the same token in Argentina, that people do not vote following this concept. And then
Well,
there is a difficulty in getting them out of on how they are.
Well, I've been discussing this in a previous meeting, that in Brazil we have this convivência that does very well in different cultures. Maybe not in different classes, but maybe that's what your question is all about. Brazil is a democracy, full democracy. It's a split country. The election was 50-50, 50 for the party that won, 50% plus one vote almost, and then 49 less one vote for the other, 50 less one for the other party. But that's the political part of Brazil, and that's the beautiful part of Brazil, because people get to vote and get to elect whoever they want to elect. We're going through a very important crisis right now, which is basically a political crisis, but that didn't stop us. And the political crisis has a huge impact in the economy of Brazil. It did not stop us from doing this year, 2 months ago. It's the worst crisis in Brazil ever, in the history of Brazil. Not just economic crisis, but political crisis. We're talking about impeaching the President Rousseff, which would be great for Brazil, but again, yeah, but it's good in Brazil. For the first time, people are going to jail for corruption. It has never happened before. Corruption was always there. So Brazil is a complex country. In such a complex country, it would be very difficult to talk about problems of the Middle East because we have enough problems of our own. So how come an idea like this survives? So the survival power of the Abraham path is a value in itself. This is what I'm here to talk about. I wake up, to be very honest with you, it's a lot of work here. I have my companies. I have a lot of things to do in Brazil. Life is complex. I wake up every morning and ask myself, what am I doing talking about the Middle East in Brazil? But then I stand up and I say, well, if Brazilians don't do that, who else can? Because we have like a free pass for the Middle East. Jews, Arabs, Muslims, Christians, they get along extremely well in Brazil. They marry each other. We got here one question, that gentleman there, about doing business together. That's the basic rule. Jews and Arabs, they are partners in every business. Even when you look at the two main institutions in Brazil for healthcare, one is the Syrian Lebanese Hospital, the other the Albert Einstein Hospital. 50% of the doctors of the Syrian Lebanese Hospital are Jews. 50% of the doctors of the Albert Einstein are Arabs. And businesses altogether. So yes, we have problems of our own. Brazil is very complex. But how come an idea like this survives and grows? Our event is growing every year. Next year, there will be a huge peace festival from what started up as just a walk a few years ago, or a DVD 9 years ago.
Great. Thank you, Alex. Thanks so much.
Thank you.